What's up, everybody? It's Jason with Scraps and Taps back here with a recap of UFC 299. I know it's a week late. I'm actually a pretty lazy person, so I'm going to try to keep these a little bit more cohesive. I don't know if I said that last week, but um, yeah, I'm a lazy person, to be honest. And so, even me trying to talk about this thing that I love, sometimes I let the better of me, I let it get the better of me, my laziness. So, I know nobody's watching out there, but for whoever is or may stumble across this, I'm going to try to do this a little bit more better to try to get this thing kind of getting off the ground. So, yeah. So, like I said, I'm going to be talking UFC 299. Obviously, it was almost a week ago at this point. Sean O'Malley versus Cheeto Vera. The whole card up and down was looking pretty solid. A lot of people said it might be better than UFC 300. Uh, you know, to each his own. I think UFC 300 is going to be pretty big. We saw the debut of Michael Venom Page. We saw the debut of Pink Shorts, right? So a lot was going on here. A lot of storylines. We got Dustin Poirier trying to cement himself as a top dog against BSD. Who else is on here? Son Yadong versus Piotr Jan. Who else we got? Burns versus JDM. We had a lot of good fights coming up here. So let's start off with the first fight of the main event was Piotr Jan versus Song Yadong. Obviously, both of these guys have had good fights leading up to this point. Song, a protege of Uriah Faber from Team Alpha Male. So always like Team Alpha Male guys. Obviously, Uriah is a big pioneer of the sport, and he produced a lot of champions, a lot of good fighters out of Team Alpha Male. Jan is obviously coming back from that 3-fight skid that he had, starting from the knee that changed his fate for the rest of his fighting career up until that point, right? So two guys trying to prove a point here. One trying to get off a skid, one trying to prove that he belongs in the top 5 of the division. So I was looking at a lot of pressure from Jan and a lot of pressure from Song. Both of them were trying to prove that they both have the slickest boxing in the UFC. It seemed like Song was talking a lot about it, talking a lot about trying to be the top dog there. And Jan is obviously, we've seen his boxing at a high level, really nice and tight sort of fighting. So, Jan was biting on a lot of Song's feints. We had a lot of good grappling going from Song. He was able to get a single leg, right? When we do those single legs, sometimes we're able to snap them down with the pressure, kind of jump them up a little bit, and then we throw them back down, and was able to counter Jan's Granby by sticking to his waist. So Granby is where you roll out of a position when somebody has like a body lock on you. So if somebody holds their fingers like this and their other hand like this, right? Then what we get is that we're able to peek out a little bit and roll through. So when you roll through, that whole rolling motion breaks the grip. And if somebody who doesn't have that great of a grip or whatever, they're not paying attention, it breaks the grip very easily. But Song did a good job of sticking with him through the roll, right? Being able to still maintain position and have his control. What I liked a lot from Song was a lot of short elbows, right? Those things hurt, man. I don't know if you've ever just bumped your elbow, obviously, or hit your funny bone, but man, not even hit your funny bone. That doesn't make no fucking sense. It's when you hit somebody in the face with the elbow, or say you're running past something and you slash your elbow right on like a steel pole, man. That shit hurts. So getting those elbows will stop Jan from trying to get in and blitz in a little bit and try to do these short ways to get through Song's guard. Piotr did shell up a lot when Song was kind of entering that empty space between them. He would kind of like that, put his hands up to try and defend. I do like the hands, obviously trying to distract the opponent. I think that's a good tactic. Jan was starting to open up at the end of round 2, was able to crawl away from a single leg takedown, right? Kind of caught him scurrying across the cage. Song had a nasty cut at the end of round 2. I thought it was 1-1 by the end of round 2. Jan had a lot of success with a lot of successful uppercuts. Seemed to always worry about the takedown at the end of round 3. He was able to double reach down to block the fake takedown and get his own late takedown to secure the win. So Jan back in the win column. Very happy for him. Song, obviously, he's a young fighter. Ready to see what he does next. Next we have Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena. Obviously, this is obviously I got to stop saying obviously. It's starting to get on my fucking nerve. This card seemed to be more of the young guys trying to get up on the older guys. We have Gilbert Burns, a tough fighter, right? Tough guy who was able to make Khamzat look human finally, right? That was the first time we ever got to see Khamzat look like a beatable person. So Gilbert was able to put the beating of a lifetime on Khamzat. So it's always good to see Gilbert in his hometown of Miami showing out for his crowd, right? So I was looking for both of them to respect each other's power in the beginning. Obviously, so I did it again. Burns has a very, very knack for putting these guys out, hitting so hard. It sounds like stones when he hits some guys. I'm thinking Burns will try to close the distance, use a lot of cage wrestling, a lot of pressure fighting from Burns. Also, since it's Miami, I was looking for him to take the knockout. JDM, just looking for him to pick apart the outside of Gilbert Burns, maybe a lot of leg kicks. But yeah, from the fight, we saw a lot of moving back and forth, a lot of grappling in the beginning of the fights. Gilbert does a really good job of trying to stick on JDM's back in those exchanges while trying to put the pressure forward to get him on that cage wrestling. So in the beginning of the fight, we saw a lot of cage wrestling from Gilbert, trying to get JDM a little tired. Throughout the most of the fight, I thought Gilbert Burns was doing good holding his own. JDM had a really good cage control, trying to be in the middle of the octagon as much as he could. But man, when Gilbert finally got to that third round and was securing that takedown, I really thought it was going to be all she wrote, that Gilbert was going to be able to ride all the way down, trying to secure some submissions, try to secure a rear naked choke by the end of that round. Like I said, Gilbert's got some really good pressure fighting, really good cage wrestling. He was always looking for the takedown, but man, just that one little mistake of letting JDM post with his leg, right, and get that ride, basically pushing off the cage a little bit. He was able to get Gilbert off. Gilbert was still stuck in that position. Then JDM was able to time this beautiful knee, which I think it landed more of the top of the thigh a little bit. I think maybe his chin hit the bottom of his knee hit the bottom of his chin. Sorry, but man, what a beautiful reversal by JDM. Was able to post that leg, spin out, hit the knee right on the takedown. He knew exactly what Gilbert was going to go for. Gilbert was ready to secure that win with that takedown. So he obviously tried to shoot it again, but JDM was able to meet him right in the middle with a beautifully timed knee, and then was able to follow it up with a lot of ground and pound. I mean, the ref gave Gilbert every opportunity to survive, and it was too much, man. But Gilbert, tough guy. I'm always a Gilbert fan. I'm ready to see what JDM will do in the future. I mean, tough as nails to be able to come down from that sort of fight or in that sort of position to reverse it and immediately change the fight. So good on JDM. Looking forward to his next fight. Next, we have Kevin Holland versus Michael Venom Page. So I really didn't take a lot of notes on this. For the most part, I think everybody knows who Michael Venom Page is, even if you're just a casual fan. He's had some highlight reel knockouts. He's had some brutal KOs of guys like Cyborg when he broke his fucking forehead with his knee. And then when he knocked out the other dude, or I think he did like a spinning fucking shit and then bam, hit the other dude. I don't know. Michael Venom Page has some very, very, very beautiful knockouts. He is a tough out. Even and the story of the fight was a Bellator guy, another Bellator guy coming into the UFC, seeing how he would fare right against a tough opponent in Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland, flashy dude. We know him, but from those beautiful fight with Stephen Thompson. Talks a lot of shit. Both talk a lot in the octagon. I think MVP was knocked out. MVP got knocked out by Douglas Lima in Bellator. Pretty nasty knockout. You should watch that one also. But the story of the fight, can MVP hang in the UFC? And I was just expecting Rock'em Sock'em Robots from the beginning. Both these guys, flashy fighters, range fighters. So we were probably going to look at a lot of countering, a lot of whiffs, a lot of misses, right? MVP has this Taekwondo style, very loose, very jumpy, back and forth. I'm in, I'm out. Holland is has very slick boxing, very nice rolls. Very good, very disciplined. I think it's too disciplined to fight somebody like MVP, though. MVP is so flowy that it's hard to cut angles on another guy who's cutting bigger angles, right? Another thing I saw from MVP was a lot of crashing into the body. So MVP has a lot of momentum going into his punches, a lot of momentum going into his kicks, right? You see him dart from one area to the next. And I think a lot of times, not only is that confusing of how fast he's able to get in, but what he does is he's able to crash into his opponent a lot of times, causing a lot of confusion, right? So when he's kicking and he's kicking through his opponent, he'll go through there, right, and crash his opponent. But at that point, Kevin Holland was starting to shell up because he didn't want to get hit with whatever he's crashing in. But I think that was a way of being able to get out with taking minimal damage, right? You see a lot of times MVP would dart in, crash into the body, then come out, and then Holland would whiff a giant right or something like that. And the thing is, MVP is a pressure fighter also. MVP can fight you along against the cage if he wants to. Both I was looking to have strong clinch game. And Holland had his moments at the end of the first round, landed a nice right on the break, kind of slipped up Venom. I didn't hear a lot of talking, though. That's the one thing. I thought they were going to be chatting shit, talking a lot of smack to each other. But it turns out they didn't. And they were really just trying to fight, A little bit more towards the beginning of the round 2. That's when I saw a little bit of talking. But that was the story, and also, Holland had a chin on him. Some of those punches were really fucking hard. And it looked like they were coming from a mile away. So, shout out to Holland and that chin, man. I'm just rewatching the fight. And, also at the end of the fight, I think Holland got a little frustrated that Venom didn't really want to fight, which I totally understand. Kind of a page out of Nate Diaz's book is like, why are you coming in and out here? Why are you not fighting me? Which I totally get it, right? Holland is trying to go in and out. Venom is trying to go in and out, trying to create these angles, but it's not causing a lot of fun, fan-friendly fighting, you get me? You want to see Rock'em Sock'em Robots. You want to see two guys like going at the distance and coming inside and fighting in the pocket and, talking like a bathroom brawl and shit. But when you got a guy fighting on the outside, it does get a little frustrating for the person on the inside who can't get that range. And, but I get it. You're not trying, what he's trying to say is like, it almost feels like you're not trying to fight me, where Nate Diaz will go to the other end of the octagon and make the other dude come and play his game, right? But I think Holland is too smart. He's had too many fights. He's too much of a veteran to play into anybody else's game, that he's going to just stick to what he knows and how to win a fight. And that's by picking somebody apart at the distance, throwing these shots that are going straight through them, right? But shout out to Michael Venom Page. I want to see him fight another guy. Like I said, mentioned Holland fighting Stephen Thompson. That would be a fun fight. Two strikers who can strike, and Stephen Thompson is not afraid to get in the pocket. Also another guy who can dart from place to place, spot to spot. So that might be a fun fight, right? So Poirier, Saint Denis. A tale as old as time itself, right? The new blood versus the old blood. What's going to happen? Can the old man prove that he still got what it takes to be at the top of the division? And does this new guy, is he able to finally get his prey, right? Become the hunted, take the place that they want, the dream that they have in order to achieve, to take out that old dog. And Dustin Poirier, as dog as they come, man. The toughest fight. Whenever I think of a Dustin Poirier fight, I think of DP versus Dan Hooker. What a fight. Even though it was in the Apex, it was the bloodiest war I'd ever seen. Think of Calvin Kattar versus Max Holloway, except Calvin Kattar was fighting back. Dan Hooker, as tough as they get. But Dustin Poirier put a beating on Dan Hooker, as well as Dan Hooker put a beating on Dustin Poirier. Such a gnarly fight. If you want to see how tough DP is, go watch that fight. You will not be disappointed. Yeah, man, DP, tough as nails. What I was afraid of in this fight was DP getting too far away from the kicks, right? Or getting caught by another kick. We saw Benoit Saint-Denis just knock out Matt Frevola with a nice head kick. Right, caught him in the toes, caught him right in the temple, knocked him clean out. So that's what was scary for me after seeing Gaethje knock out DP. But Benoit Saint-Denis also has some rear naked finishes, so have to be wary of that too, right? And can we call DP the new king of the guillotine, the guillotine king? DP, man. Wall wrestling, guillotine. If he tried to shoot a takedown, guillotine. I mean, the guillotine on this man is insane. And he had some pretty deep, but I think it was too early in the fight for it for BSD not to have enough strength to pull out, right? To pop his head out. But man, what an intense fight. I was so nervous leading up to this fight. Like I was scared for DP because I knew how much of a dog Benoit Saint-Denis was, and how tough as nails he was also. But DP did a lot of good job opening up with the kicks. There was a lot. He had his head shaved, so there was a lot of minimal hair fixes, right? And I mean, it was just guillotine after guillotine literally in the beginning of round one, and it landed him in a terrible position where Benoit Saint-Denis was able to take his back, and I thought it was over at this point. I was getting a little nervous right here, and I thought BSD would be able to jump up and try to secure the rear naked choke. But man, on the other hand too, Benoit kept trying to just like reach for these takedowns, which I thought was really, really not smart. And DP was able to counter some of them. And man, the damage that Dustin Poirier can take, short elbows, bond defense, and Benoit just kept going. He looked like he was a man on the mission. He was trying to take that spot. I mean, he was going forward and forward. But when you meet somebody like Dustin Poirier, I mean, you're going to have another guy right back in your face, meeting you right in the middle. So it was super exciting to see two of these guys really scrap it up. And towards the end of round one, it wasn't looking so good on the scorecards. Dustin Poirier ending it with BSD on his back. It was not a good look. And like I said, every rear naked choke, every rear whatever, when DP gets his back taken, I get a little nervous, right? So started round two again. You're looking at Benoit Saint-Denis taking over with these takedowns, right? And they're all mainly stemming from these guillotine attempts. I think Poirier has said that on these, he's trying to get him because he gets him so much in training, but it really left him vulnerable to these. When it failed, that now you got BSD on top of you. Now you're ending most of these exchanges where you get caught the most from what we've seen in previous fights, right? And so now we're heading into the middle of round two, and Benoit is just starting to get on this. And then towards the end, right around 320, we start seeing them break apart, and DP is just getting battered a little bit, and he just comes back with this right hand that kind of that kind of gets BSD a little bit on skates. You see his knee lock up a little, right? And then Dustin, again, trying to hit this guillotine, trying to look at more of a standing guillotine, like one right on your chest. They break apart. Then DP is able to hit him with the left. 2 whiffs from Benoit. And I'm telling you, man, Benoit wasn't ready for it. Hit straight to the body. Boom, a right hand that stifles him and the left that puts him on his knee. Then you motherfucker, why are you throwing this guillotine again? And everybody's on the crowd. What the fuck is up with this guillotine? Boom, right hand. That's all she wrote, baby. Dustin Poirier would knocked out Benoit Saint Denis out cold. Pressure makes diamonds, baby. I will always be a Dustin Poirier fan. It's one of those things, man. It's like when you've been watching as long as I've been watching, you want these old guys to win. You want these guys who are being written off. Like you said, Eddie Alvarez gave DP a chance. And now DP is going to give, Benoit Saint Denis a chance, right? And you're looking at the odds and you're looking at this young guy's going to take this old dude out, man. But I've been watching DP since he was fighting McGregor, when even McGregor was on his rise. Like, these are he was such a young dude when he started. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Fightland documentary on him. I don't know if it's still out there, but he had a documentary when he was still fighting in his regional promotions in Louisiana. I mean, that's how long I've been following this guy. So shout out to Dustin Poirier, man. Like, he's just a man. He's the man, and he's just a man. I mean, come on, dude. Crazy, crazy fight. All right. So let's get to our main event. Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera. Obviously, doing it again. And here we have Sugar Sean trying to rewrite his past with Chito, when Chito kicked Sean O'Malley's perennial nerve, basically shutting down his foot, and the Sugar State Athletic Commission overturned that to a 0-0, no contest, right? But officially on the UFC record books, it was 1 Chito, 0 Sean. So it was time for Sean to re-wrong this, right? I think he wanted this just to get that off his chest so that now he can have a fresh championship run, right? And Chito was here to prove a point that he can take out the top dog. They've been chatting shit back and forth. And it was time for Chito to put on a show, and in a mainly Ecuadorian crowd. It seemed like a crowd who was on Chito's side to win. And unfortunately, that did not play out. Sean channeled his superstar ability and, picked apart Chito for 5 rounds. And this is the thing, is that Chito, we know, is a slow starter. But we would think that he would pick it up in these fights, these big fights, but it didn't turn out that way. It felt a lot that Chito was trying to sit on these counters that weren't really there. And, Sean's blocking and defense is so good, and his angle cutting and all this good stuff, all his kicks, him able to control the pressure. It's very interesting to see how much to see how much Sean has grown as a champ during this fight. And he hasn't had anybody to really give him a big fight other than, I think, Petr Yan gave him his toughest fight at that point. And so to see Chito get battered and bruised for 5 rounds is really tough. Sean's masterclass in striking, it's something of beauty. He's able to pick apart on the outside. Chito was biting on a lot of these feints that even when Sean would try to load up, right, Chito was already bracing, but not even trying to counter at that point. I think Chito, the same thing with Holland and Page, I felt like it was a lot of trying to time the break off, right, and missing and not being able to complete all that. And man, I think it was Chito versus Rob Font, right? Rob Font is a tough fighter, and Chito came out of that fight almost nearly unscathed and gave Rob Font the beating of his lifetime. And Chito's face looked absolutely normal. And this fight, Chito's face looked like he looked like he just got in a bare knuckle fight. His face was poofy, bruised. That knee that landed in the middle of the fight. And I think Sean said he might have broke something in his face. He heard something pop. That shit was so fucking loud. I remember I heard it and I was like, ooh, and still didn't go down. Chito's got a tough chin. Chito's just got to learn how to not even learn. Chito's just got to improve his ability to start and show a little more in those beginning rounds, right? It's hard to try to stay and stay in strike with this guy who's just in and out, or start learning or start doing throwing in more takedowns, throwing in more pressure to the cage, right? In order for guys like Sean to win the fight, he has to be at range, right? He has to be able to get off all his jabs while he's cutting and throwing all these kicks, maybe making you think that I'm here, but no, I'm right here, right? And was just basically forcing Cheeto to follow Sean, right? Which we even seen in the Aljo fight. Sean is able to generate a lot of power even on his back foot, right? So, I mean, it was hard to watch at some point, watching Cheeto get beat down like that. But I know Cheeto's a tough fighter. He'll probably come back. Maybe he'll fight Song Yudong. Maybe they'll have a go at it. So, yeah, all in all, what a great card. Big fight feel. People say it's better than 300, and people can say what they want, but I'm so excited for UFC 300. UFC 299 was a great fight and a great card. So shout out to all the winners. Shout out to all the losers. These guys do some great work in the octagon for all of us to be entertained by. And I'm so thankful that I get to watch this sport and be a part of it in some way as a fan, as somebody talking about it. I mean, it's beautiful. Just Bleed fans, casuals, jiu-jitsu guys who love grappling, guys. I love this sport for what it is, and I'm so excited for UFC 300. And thank you guys for the bottom of my heart who are watching or who has watched or who's supporting me right now. I want to try to make this channel bigger and do more things with it. And so I want to say thank you to whoever's watching right now. I appreciate you. So this is Jason with Scraps and Taps. I'll see you at the next numbered event. If not, maybe UFC Apex.